Our speaker this afternoon here, the session, is Jim Russell. He is the proprietor of IdeaBox. It is a small design firm. It makes modular and prefab housing. They're just located north on Broadway, Commercial, Liberty. It's a Liberty, I guess, going north, just north of downtown. Jim and I worked together at the Oregon Department of Energy some years ago. He has a bachelor's in communication from University of Oregon. He has a master's degree in architecture from Colorado or University of Denver? From Colorado, where he worked as in an architectural firm for a number of years then, and wound up coming back to Oregon. He's from Eugene originally, and got a job at Oregon Department of Energy with us, and he led a group that worked on trying to make the mobile homes, manufactured homes, more energy efficient. And it really got him into energy efficiency, resource efficiency, and he has gone off, broke off on his own, created this firm about 25 years ago or so, and take it from there.
So yeah, I blame all of this on John. Actually, I kind of have to. Oh, hello? Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into this story, but actually you hired me to be behind somebody, as I recall, because there's a long story about, never mind. So long story short, the program I was hired to work with John was this manufactured home program. Back in those days, I think it was called Super Good Sense. And I had just left Vail, Colorado, and the house I was working on was 8,500 square feet. And it was small compared to the stuff that we did there. And I remember Dave Furr handed me a 28 by 56 Fleetwood and asked if I could figure out the square footage. So then I realized all that calculus that I had in graduate school and all that architecture stuff changed for me. But what I did, one of the nice things is I got to work pretty quickly through Odo, and being a state official, we went into all the manufactured home plants in the region. And as an architect, all I kept walking through was going, man, why are these like this? And why couldn't they be better? And John and the guys gave me a lot of freedom in some ways, because we did some creative things. One thing we did do is we made, I don't know how many, 50,000 houses maybe by the time I was there, more energy efficient through the MAP program. It actually, I remember, because later on I worked at Energy Star federally, but it's one of the few programs that actually succeeded its goals by a long margin. It was pretty impressive. But because of that, I got to do things like resource efficiency. It was a program called Choices. We were one of the first in the country to do that. And I thought I was doing really, really great until I went up, I think it was John or Bill Nesmith, I can't remember, and I wanted to do furniture that was made out of hemp, because that wasn't you. That's the end of that program, because the state wasn't exactly interested in promoting that concept. But we did a lot of other things, and then we did E-Rated, which was an appliance program, another one of those that was in the first of the country. So when I was combining all these things, and then I worked for federal government, USDOE on Energy Star, introducing that, and kind of moved more and more into marketing and design, and I never left that concept of couldn't we do affordable housing that was interesting. That was my whole goal. And then because of John, he started it, we decided to do IdeaBox. And so what he asked me to do today, and I hope it'll be interesting, we built probably 300 houses now in our time on that lovely site in Commercial Street. But he wanted to know about small house design. So I did this whole thing last night. It was really great. Lots of pictures. And I thought, no, I'm going to go through a normal project, because if that's what the interest is. I thought it was interesting. So like we did in architecture days, we always drew in circles or squares or rectangles as we're trying to put a project together. You know, somebody will come and say, I want this, and then your job, and we called it a problem, was to solve that design goal. And the easiest way to do that, when I was first in school, I used to, graduate school, I had main lines. I don't know if you know what architect, straight edges and triangles and stuff, and cool pins. So I think I went into architecture school because they had really cool pins. But I was really into doing it perfectly. And one day I went into class, or into my studio desk, and I didn't have a boatload of money, and so all my stuff was gone from my table. And I was kind of freaking out. And one of the professors was ambled by, and he goes, well, what's up? And I said, well, all my stuff's gone. And he goes, yeah, we took it. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, because everything you're trying to do is trying to be perfect. And so all I had left on my desk was a Sharpie and a roll of trace paper. And that was going to be my presentation stuff for the rest of that term. And the point that I learned, lesson there, he goes, when you're getting that tight, you can't be free to create and listen to people and do things you're more worried about. Gee, did I make that door threshold big enough? You're not even supposed to know about that yet. And so that's what we do today. And it really throws people. We see a lot of people who come in, and we talk to a lot of people now virtually, and it's circles and rectangles and all sorts of stuff. So this is kind of one of those. So I'll try and get you through this one. So we do a lot of small houses. More and more of ours are larger. I just grabbed a few. The one in the upper right is the one that we put. That was our very first house. It's 400 square feet. It was built to a park model code because none of my big friends at the manufactured housing plants wanted to take on trying to do something modern. So that was the first one we built. We had it there for a long time. It's gone now. It's an anacortes on the water. I try to send it messages from time to time. The other ones, the one in the lower right is a house we just put in Port Townsend. It's also a little one. Most of our houses in Port Townsend are a little bit bigger. The one next to that with the angled roof, that was actually on Home and Garden Television. We were on, back then it was HGTV's Tiny House somethings. I forgot. It took like 2 weeks to film it, which is crazy. But this was a house that we did for that site. And it was really, I would get into that story, but it's too long. And the upper one is one of the more recent small ones. It's going to be in Manzanita. It should start construction in a couple of weeks. Oh, well, we've got to go through engineering, and then we'll go to construction. So we are building to, as John mentioned, we were doing manufactured homes. We did do probably at least 150 or more manufactured home versions. Today we're building modular. And a lot of the difference being, if you don't know what it is manufactured home is a federal code. It actually should be a model of how codes should be done, because every single thing we do is individually. It doesn't matter if you're doing, we did 20 wildfire houses on the Mackenzie River, replacement houses. And every single one of those had to be submitted and engineered for approval. And they were right next to each other. I mean, but because of the code, the way we run codes around this whole country, actually, if it's a manufacturer, it's repeat, 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 because the code's already been approved. All you need is an address. But today it's modular, and it means it's built to the regular building code. Wherever we're going, like, well, these are just other houses. We did a study for OHCS here recently, last year, on housing types, and so these were 4 pre-designed smaller houses that we did for them. I just thought it was interesting. So we're doing different things. The upper left there is the house, the 20 houses we did up in Blue River. The one on the right was a study for, I just put it on the Deschutes just because I want, no, that's a Metolius. And then somebody goes, it looks like AI, and I said, yeah, it is. AI is another amazing thing. And then that's a little duplex that's sitting in Portland, and then the other one on the left is a 2-story. We're trying to play with 2 stories because you can get more livable square footage on smaller spaces. I just wanted them to be cool, so that's what that is. So this, oh shoot. Where'd it go? Ah, darn it. Oh, well. I had the, oh, it's up here on this screen, but you can't see it. This is a house. There was a little intro. We get a lot of our inquiries over the internet. And I have the intro. I'm looking at it right here. If somebody scheduled an appointment with us, this was about 2 years ago. They were from Twin Falls, Idaho. They had a small little tiny lot in Bandon, Oregon. So this is a funky, small house with a ton of stuff to do. So this was my first introduction to the sites. They sent me these pictures. I looked it up on Google and maps and all that stuff to get a lay of the land there. This was kind of the house she came in on. We called it Blocks. It's still up on our website. It was a really simple space. That's all she wanted. We found out later that that was not going to happen because, what is this? Oh, yeah, this is the one I wanted you to see. That's what comes in on our internet stuff. That's all we got. She's now one of our best friends. She's pretty awesome. She really is amazing. So from there, we, okay, well now my slides are all bounced around. But this is the reason I had codes in my intro. This was the City of Bandon's requirements for that little tiny site. It's on a spit that comes out of Bandon. It's a pretty cool neighborhood, but it's funky. And you had to meet 18 different things I had to do to this 600 square foot house. So we often do, this is my, what I did is I did this in about 6 layers, just working myself through and then using it to talk to Beth about all the things we had to do. But like we had to do a bay window. We had to do 2 different sidings in 2 different colors. The primary elevations had to step back and forth by at least 1 foot. What else did we have to do on this? Oh, we had to have a covered entry, and we had to have a post for the covered entry. It was specifically named as a thing. So the little bay window is, I got away with that one. It's just an alcove. And then that's how, but we scribbled it through, and this is a really bad, I have about 20 or 30 of these, but I didn't want to bore you with all that. We had to have a dog run, and the setbacks were enormous. It's on a corner lot, so it's 20 feet in the front, 20 feet on the side, on a lot that was really, really small. So this is the biggest possible house you could have on that property. There's the first site map that we did. I loved that it was on Madison and 5th. I just thought that was perfect. I would tell my friends, yeah, I'm doing a house on Madison and 5th. So once you work your way through the design process, we do this all the time. We worked ourselves to this. And that shows you all the different things we did on that upper left slide. That's a walkthrough in the middle there with the house on the property, showing the setbacks, and then giving her a chance to see all 3 views other than the front one. And then down below is a floor plan. And those are super exciting. We have to go through, just like any house, you got to go through all elevations, all things that you're going to build it with. It wouldn't matter if this is a 8,500 square foot house or a 600 square foot house. You've got to provide all this information. We have to show the colors. They have to be accurate. So when the city goes through its thing, they can get that. Then there's all the stuff. People like stuff, and they have to make all these decisions. So we guide them through each and every one of these things, one at a time. And Beth, she knew what she wanted. And we had a few runs at that. But it was cool. It was a super efficient little house. So, but you have to go through all these steps. You have to call them out. And you have to specify them. This is the spec sheet that we put together with our modular builder, who's Blazer Industries out in Almsville. They're pretty awesome. We do a lot of houses with them. But again, this is a 600 square foot house, and there's all the specs. And we go through every single one of them. It's my most favorite part. Then you go to engineering, and this is about half the engineering set, but it gives you an idea of all the different pages you have to go through. We do have to meet seismic in Oregon. We're a pretty seismic state. Now we're off and on wildfire. We've done a lot of wildfire stuff in Northern California. And those guys, actually, for California, they haven't nailed. Oregon still hasn't quite figured it all out yet. We learned that on the 20 wildfire replacement houses. And then you get to build something. So this is a floor frame at Blazer for this house. These guys are interesting. They build our stuff. I think we're the only residential client of theirs. They also build libraries, and they just did a 2-story, I forgot how big it was exactly, but a school for Maui, you know, after the fires and stuff over there. They shipped it from here to there, and I wanted to sneak in on one of the shipments just to get over there. They do just laboratories, just tons and tons of stuff. So we're really excited to be there. They're one of the best premier builders in the region. So that house then, I was trying to get wall framing pictures, but I didn't have any. So this is just looking at the house now in construction. We do some cool stuff. Oregon requires some cool stuff. We use zip systems. I don't know if you know what that is, but what it does is make the house, it combines things in layers that would normally be separate, and it makes it airtight. And we first learned that in Washington State, who does do blower door tests in every home that they do. And the house was really big for us. It was about 2,000 square feet. And we sailed through the blower door. And it had to go on a little barge and ride waves and stuff, and it still did great. So that's just the process. Let's see what's next. I just like that shot. It was backlit. They were doing drywall. This is inside, speaking of drywall, and it gets just as gnarly as most sites do when they're doing drywall. This was to a level 4 finish, if you know what that is. It's almost flat, but not quite. We do some flat ones, but if there's ever a nick or something, it's a pain. That's the house as it's starting to work its way through. And now we're on site. So the houses are wrapped in their little wrappings, and they're shipped down to this one, obviously to Bandon. We use a company that's going on its 3rd generation for transport and install, and they installed this house on the site. There was an amazing amount of coastal fill stuff that came up at the last possible second, which we really liked that. We worked with Kaufman Homes. I don't know if any of you know who Kaufman Homes is here in Salem. There was an amazing amount of stuff they had to tear out and then bring back in, but they did a great job. And that's just different measures. The house is arriving. It's placed parallel to the foundation. I was hoping to get a shot of them. They'll roller the house over the top of the frame and then lower it down. And those guys are doing seismic ties. And if this is boring, just let me know. This is just looking at the house as it arrived. There's some ship loose stuff, so everything can get finished after the house is there. And I just happen to like those shots. That one with the door is cool. That's inside after she picked all of her finishes. Super funky house. The little rectangle on the wall on the left side is she wanted to have an electric fireplace. And I kept telling her, Beth, you do not have a wall big enough for this electric fireplace. And then I found this, and it's totally, totally cool. You can get it at Home Fire Stove. I think they have it there. But it's like this electric, it's kind of 3D. Well, you can't really tell. But it's so cool. I wanted to get one for my office, but Cindy's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. But it looks like a wood stove. You can get legs. The other thing we like to do is we like to celebrate things, and one of them is laundry. And this was a takeoff of our model online. It's called Haven. And Haven was a design that I did one Saturday morning waiting for some people, and it was foggy and cold. And I had this envelope, and I sketched out. I was just so tired of having laundry go in weird places. So I made this place for laundry, and it was celebrating laundry. And we got so much flack from people, and they, why would you put the laundry there? And I said, yeah, but these machines are cool looking, and it's a 5x5 window, and that's the one she based this whole house off of. And I just think it's really cool, so sorry. Got to get cool looking washers and dryers, though. This is the picture she sent me after everybody left. So that was the deck that went on, and that had to go through structural review by the city. kind of interesting. And that's her landscape today. And let me sure what I have left here. Okay. It's missing some stuff. Shoot. Well, that just killed my really cool ending. I was going to show you some of the, it's on, oh, I don't know if it's worth trying to do it. Pardon me?
Is that the other one?
Yeah, it's on here. Is this on there? Do you have all my stuff on there? Oh, I don't know if it's worth all that, but I could show you my screen. Is there any questions, any thoughts, any? It's not a telescope. I was really enjoying that whole thing
I do.
back
This
there.
is Gwen Ellen, and I do have a question, because in Europe they use a lot of appliances that are very small because their apartments are small. Have you used any of those, or do you think about using those?
All the time.
Okay.
But we're Americans,
I know.
and they don't get too far. We're also big on things like induction, and there's just some exciting new appliances that are coming out. But I always try to introduce them, and every time I get bounced out. Except for one. We're doing one in Orcas Island right now, and we're doing all small. It's pretty cool. And induction.
Right there.
Hi, this is Cassia. I'm assuming that when you move these small houses, that someone has already done the foundation and you said talk about site prep.
Great
What
question.
about this foundation? It's got to go somewhere.
We hope. Yeah, no, I wish I would have thought of doing that. Yeah, so the process that I didn't talk about was the contractor side. So the first thing we do when we get a project is we talk to the client about everything. And if you go to our website, there's a page that gets into all of it. But at the same time they're talking to us, we want them to talk to a general contractor wherever they're going. Because we're just a small part of the budget. And we have a budget page with a little calculator that assumes things, and you can put in, if the house is $100, it's going to show you how much more it's going to cost for that house to be installed. But I would say today we're about maybe half to two-thirds of the overall cost of a typical install. And so as we're doing our thing with the modular side, we're working with the general contractor to get their budgets together, because the last thing we don't want to do is have a house come in way over budget. And when you're also building in modular stuff, part of the reason they have all those drawings and all those specs is because they're building it at an increased timeline. You're not sitting out building for 6 or 8 months. You're building in maybe a month. So everything is pretty tight. So your opportunity to make changes is over once we go into engineering. So, because of that, we want to make sure the same accuracy is happening on site. And like that one, that was a curveball. We had this coastal deviation thing we had to do at the very last moment.
This is Ken. I just have a question. What is a ballpark figure for some of these tiny homes? For somebody to get the whole thing done?
I would say, this is really hard for me because the costs are absolutely nuts. I would say a house like what she has would be about $250,000, and that's cheap to regular site built construction. And then the site costs on that one were right around $100,000, and a lot of that had to do with this mitigation stuff. Part of the other thing, and John and I actually talked about this a little bit, codes are really becoming layered up. You know, there's building the house, but then, and a lot of it's for good things, and you made a really good point. I wanted to tell you that publicly. Because I was lamenting about how we have to do energy recovery ventilation, for example. And we had a really cool system when we did the MAP program. And now you have to have this thing that runs so many hours a day, and it's cool in technology because it preheats or pre-cools incoming air with outgoing air. But that costs money. It's like $1,000. And then most houses today, they're requiring ductless heat pumps, which are awesome. and they save a ton of energy and energy bill, but they're $4 to $5 grand to install. And then we do zipped because we know blower doors are coming. They are already in Washington and California. But, as more and more are capable of checking into building leaks, these take that out. So all these little things that of themselves or whatever add up. And so we're trying to figure out ways to get that cost somewhere in line. But when we built our little park model, I think we paid $50,000 for that to have it built. Today, if I had that done, it'd be the least expensive I could get. That would be over $150,000, and it just blows me. I remember my parents. Well, never mind. Saying the same thing.
Hi, this is Brenda. If you structure is so airtight, don't you have to worry about indoor air quality?
That's the ERV unit.
So what do you do?
So it comes on automatically, and ventilates the house. There's still, ironically, enough building leaks that we're not having to poke holes in walls. But that's, you induce a pressure, brings in fresh air, and then it's exhausted. It works. Or open a window. That's another, they make those. It's cool.
Hello, this is Mark.
Hi.
Up till now, you've been building mostly with the factory fabricated buildings. Are there any ideas in the future about using more on-site technology, like say make concrete for your construction, since that's more durable? And
yeah, I mean, we're all watching Texas, and there's another community being done. It's one of those technologies that I had a story, but I think I lost it. Yeah, we're very much interested in that kind of stuff. It just is, how do you get it? How does the technology work? Will it work for Oregon? One of the other, since we build everywhere on the West Coast, pretty much, every single, well, let's use Oregon. We are doing a house right now that we built for OHCS, for the Willamette Valley, for Marion County. We're doing one right now for, it's over out of Dayton. It's far enough that we have to do a different code submittal to meet that. And we're doing another one, almost the same house, up in Port Townsend. And that's Jefferson County. And they are interesting. And they interpret energy different than, yeah, it's just part of the game. But so the reason I'm saying all that is new technologies are really hard to get through. There's a really big thing going on right now, and I'm really excited about it, is the MEP stuff, the laminated plywoods and timbers and like glue lams, but they're doing all sorts of stuff with that. And, you have to get that through. When I was at Odo, we wanted to do a house, just structural panels, and then we were going to, stip panels with the foam in the middle. But the electricians were having a hard time because they couldn't see the wiring runs. Or then I remember PGE did a program years ago with shower heads where they're going to replace your shower heads until the unions got involved and said you had to have a plumber come out and take off the old shower head and put on the new shower head. So you're dealing with those kinds of battles. So it's exciting stuff, though. Those houses are really cool that they're doing that with. I just wonder how you hang a picture on them,
Oh, this is Paul. Looking at all the spec work you have to do and everything, it seems like it's just about the same cost to do a 600 square foot house, in terms of all that spec time and everything, as it would if you do it on a 3,000 square foot house. So it looks like the cost per square foot on building a small house, really starts kicking up, because the material cost, obviously, that's different. But it seems like all the hoops and hurdles you have to go over for any house, it gets concentrated, is the same as for a small house in a way.
They are. There's really no difference. And part of it, too, is Blazer's very thorough. But if you're doing anything, unless it's a manufactured home or like a park model, which are starting to be allowed more and more, the beauty of manufactured housing is it's a systems-based code. It's federal, so it gets that thing hanging over it, but the concept of it's amazing. You have 3 or 4 zones of heating and cooling that you have to do, but you pre-approve your assemblies, and then the federal government approves that, so then the local jurisdiction doesn't have to. In modular or regular building, it's really based on the local contractor. So when we do the modular house like that one that we just did for Beth, that structural set of drawings that I showed goes to the state of Oregon, to Labor and Industries. And they are awesome lately. I just have to pat them on the back because they're getting our approvals back pretty quickly. But they do all the plan checks the local jurisdiction would have to do. And then they stamp it, and then that goes to the local jurisdiction. You still have to do all that review and approval. Oh, the other thing I should say is because they bring in inspectors to inspect all that stuff. And we have a nice reciprocity agreement throughout our region where inspectors are approved by each state to inspect houses in your facility. So like right now, we've got one going to Utah. We've got one getting ready to go to Steamboat Springs. We have one going to California. We have 2 or 3 going to Washington, a few in various counties in Oregon, and we're starting to look at one in Monterey, California. So they are all inspected by, in our state, Oregon Building Codes Division. So, but they have to have a set of drawings that's approved by the local, and they do it through the states. Is that as confusing as I could possibly make it? Yeah, it's actually kind of cool. But if it was a manufactured home, you say this is a manufactured home and you go in for a permit, you got to make sure you have your seismic stuff right and your energy stuff right, and you're done. It's pretty cool. Now we just got to get them way cool, which is we do.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and I have one question. I have a son who's a firefighter and works for the Parks and Recreation Department in Central California, and he was telling me that the place where he's at now is really outdated, and he's painting it himself, and it's no potable water, and I was wondering why they can't just tear down outdated buildings and just put
wildfire protected.
Yeah, some kind of modular places.
Probably just cost and approval. When we did it was interesting to me, and this may not apply, it probably doesn't, but up to McKenzie, before we did the project, I was part of a lot of economic studies up the valley, and my family lived up there. My sister has this company called McKenzie Mist Water. If you've ever had it, it's really, really good. But her whole family's up there, and they're not unlike many that live up there. And the housing stock is not normal. One of the things we ran into is the median income is really low compared to what the new housing costs are. Some people, like my nephew, made himself a house in a shed. He just made it really nice, and there's thousands of those up there. And it really taught me a lesson about people and economies, and how you think you have these really neat ideas, and you go, oh man, well this thing would be 10 times the cost of what they have. So what do you do? And if a fire, their houses were gone in 2 or 3 minutes. And then when we were doing our first wildfire stuff in Northern California, I was talking to the head guy there at they call it WUI, Wildland and Urban Interface, and he was saying that the houses are not designed to save the house. They're designed to give you extra time. That's all they're for. And then we had a client who sent us a video of them trying to get out of there, and you couldn't see anything. They were following this rescue truck, and all you saw were embers flying all over the place. So I'm a big fan of the wildfire stuff. It's not that hard to do.
Hi, my name is Sharon. I recently saw a piece about Oregon State University developing the printing material to print, and they're using the local soils rather than cement. Are you familiar with that? And could it at all be used in the kind of project you're using, and what do you think about it?
I think it's awesome. For a factory, I think on site-built stuff, it's a laydown. There's some really cool, there's some other stuff going on with grasses. I just saw one, I sent it to a friend of mine who I ran with at Oregon. What's that stuff called? Yeah, I think it's great. They used to do compacted mud, compacted dirt houses, and some have been around for 100 and some odd years. A guy we worked with at the state built one in California, and it's got to be 30 years old now because I'm old. So I think it's great, and I hope there's more. You have to get it through all the approvals. I should just add that. Once you get through the approvals, you're good to go.
Hi, this is Jim. You've sort of covered this with your question and what you were saying about building on site where there are old homes. I remember where they used to have these wonderful log cabin kits, and you could build your log cabin wherever you had a site, I guess. Do code laws apply to those, or are they outside the jurisdiction of cities, or what's the typical scenario for that? Do you know?
I think there are some caveats in Oregon Energy for those. We're a seismic state. That would be my only, I'm not an expert on the log home stuff, but my hunch is you'd still have to meet seismic, whatever that connection needs to be. So which means you have to have a foundation, all that. I just have to say this. One of the projects I got to work on was a 10,800 log cabin for Jack Nicklaus, the golf guy. That was amazing. Those logs are incredible. But they're cool.
Hi, my name is Joan.
Hi.
Why are there so many differences in so many code regulation differences between not mobile homes, manufactured dwellings, and modular homes? Apart from a foundation, maybe.
I think it's the culmination of things. Manufactured homes came out of travel trailers. Now Oregon has a manufactured dwelling code. We're not quite sure what it is exactly or why they have it. But it's just the difference between the metamorphosis from the mobile type code to building on site. And why there's so many, I don't know. Oregon's well, actually, all the states are on at least the West Coast. They're more amenable in the East Coast for like modular. You can build modular up and down the East Coast. It's not a big deal. But out here, it's like if you send it to Polk County, it's going to be different than Marion, which is going to be different than Bend, which is going to be, So it's just part of it. I have a feeling someday it'll all come together. But codes are important.
In answer, let me help answer that question too. The federal code for manufactured housing, is a HUD code, and it applies to all 50 states. And so it was kind of dominated by southern states, and every time, not that the feds ever really wanted to raise the standards a lot, but whenever they did, they would get resistance from southern states. So then they went to 2 tiers, a northern tier and a southern tier. And so the standards for the northern tier are a little bit better, but they're still pretty weak. The states for individual homes, for site-built home, are considerably higher than the federal standards. And Oregon has long been one of the best in terms of its energy efficiency standards for site-built homes. And the modular homes, even though they're built in the factory like the HUD home manufactured homes, the modular homes have to meet basically the state standard.
Yeah.
So quality-wise, they're much better that way. So does that kind of help clarify? I have a question for you, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay. You mentioned AI. I assume that nowadays most of the plans are all being drawn up by AI, or are you waiting for your job to be replaced?
Well, I would be firing me, so we'll have a talk about that. Right now, for me anyway, no, I just use AI. I still have to design stuff, and I'm sure at some point that'll happen. But I still believe humans have a reason for being, and I think a lot of it's the innate creative process of whatever it is you're doing. We use AI for rendering. Because I do it a lot to test something. So like we're doing this house in Steamboat, and I really wanted to get a sense because it was getting really long. And when you do it in AI, if you tell it the right way, it'll be real. You won't know that it's not real, and it's amazing. So, but I still have to design it first. We had one of my coworker people at Blazer thought all I did was talk to AI and the whole thing pops out. You know, and it's like, no. So I walked her through every step of it. It's just like this. You got to go through, you know, I probably had 30 little sketches with Beth and then doing the code stuff. And then, but yeah, eventually probably program it all in there. It's scary, weird. I was doing this house. I was the one for Orcus. And I was studying this stuff, and I forgot what my question was. But so it was a few days later, and I got back on AI, and I was just saying, well, what if I did this, and this? What would that be? And he goes, well, it would be just like the Neil project you're working on. And I went, that is totally creepy weird. How do you know? One, I didn't tell the AI that it was the Neil project. But it knew it was the nail. Or when I go home and talk to Alexa, she says hi and she tells me jokes, and it's totally freaky weird. So it's coming. Kind of weird.
So I have one quick comment, then I have a question for you, Jim. Jim has mentioned MAP program a couple of times, and the manufactured housing program. MAP was MHAP, Manufactured Housing Acquisition program. Yeah. What we did in the 90s, because the manufactured homes were built to such crummy standards, they're basically trailers, we worked with the utilities in the region and the manufacturers. So Oregon, Washington, and then Idaho.
Northern California, yeah. Montana. Oh, no, it's not builders.
And we worked with the manufacturers, 15 manufacturers in the region, and then the utilities came in, so that the utilities paid the manufacturers to build all the manufactured homes that they produced to basically the state energy efficiency standards. Or above.
They were above, way
They
above.
were even above
Yeah,
the state
they're
standards.
cool.
So for about 10 years, the manufactured home guys were building very efficient housing out of these plants. You know, the trailers that were running down the road were really energy efficient. But Jim left and the program fell apart.
No. But at that time, though, manufactured housing was over a third of the housing starts in the region. Yeah. Yeah. So, at that time too, the nuclear power was that one in Rainier went down, and a couple of others. So there was this influx of people coming to the region. It was too expensive to build a new power plant. So the savings was found in the efficiency of this one entity that built 30% or more of the houses in the region. So it was awesome.
So I have one last question for you, and I think this will be the last question because we're getting close to 4 o'clock. So actually it's two questions in one. What is the market, what is the demand or the market for some of the smaller houses that you make, and how satisfied then are customers with the product that they get in terms of the size?
Right now we're building small and large. Small being that 600 square foot range up or down. Part of us think it's cost, part of us think it's, it's me, that's weird. Part of me thinks that it's cost, even though admittedly the dollar per square foot, it goes pretty up fast on a small dwelling. And part of me thinks lifestyle. Some people are getting simpler. Everyone we talk to is about simplifying. Some people tell me, don't do that closet. I want to get an armoire, and I'm going to do it that way. As far as lifestyle goes, we pay a lot of attention to ergonomics and how to make something seem way bigger than it is. We have opposing glass. We want, if you're in the living room and you're looking down to the bedroom, that bedroom's going to seem like it's 1.5 miles away. We want light coming in from everywhere if we can do it. With today's energy efficiency window technologies, it's pretty, you don't have to worry about the north and south. We don't like hallways. I hate them with a passion because it's just waste. So we try to do everything we can. So our customers are kind of loving it. And this IdeaBox, it's cool. And we were on TV. And we did a house with IKEA once. That was really cool. So, thanks.
Okay. Well, let's thank Jim for coming.